Hello, Mary Bethune students, staff, families, and partners. My name is Miss Nakonachny, and I'm privileged to be the principal here at Mary Bethune. And I am excited today to be kicking off our fall 2023 One School, One Book program. The book we are going to be reading this fall is How to Eat Fried Worms by Thomas Rothwell. If you have not received your own copy of this book, please contact the school so we can make sure we get one in your hands right away. So let's jump right in with chapter 1. Chapter 1, The Bet. Hey, Tom, where were you last night? Yeah, you missed it. Alan and Billy came up the front walk. Tom was sitting on his porch steps bouncing a tennis ball. Old Man Tater caught Joe as we were climbing through the fence, so we all had to go back, and he made us pile the peaches on his kitchen table, and then he called our mothers. Joe's mother hasn't let him out yet. Where were you? Tom stopped bouncing the tennis ball. He was a tall, skinny boy who kept his troubles very seriously. My mother kept me in. What for? I wouldn't eat my dinner. Alan sat down on the step below Tom and began to chew his thumbnail. What was it? Salmon casserole. Billy flopped down on the grass, chunky, snub-nosed, freckled. Salmon casserole's not so bad. Wouldn't she let you just eat 2 bites? Asked Alan. Sometimes my mother says, well, all right, if I just eat 2 bites. I wouldn't eat even 1. That's stupid, said Billy. 1 bite can't hurt you. I'd eat 1 bite of anything before I'd let them send me to my room right after supper. Tom shrugged. How about mud? Alan asked Billy. You wouldn't eat a bite of mud. Alan argued a lot. Small, knobby-kneed, nervous, gnawing at his thumbnail, his face smudged, his red hair muscled, shirt-tailed hanging out, shoelaces untied. Sure I would, Billy said. Mud? What's mud? Just dirt with a little water in it. My father says everyone eats a pound of dirt every year anyway. How about poison? That's different. Billy rolled over on his back. Is your mother going to make you eat the leftovers today for lunch? He asked Tom. She never has before. How about worms? Alan asked Billy. Tom's sister's cat squirmed out from under the porch and rubbed against Billy's knee. Sure, said Billy. Why not? Worms are just dirt. Yeah, but they bleed. So you'd have to cook them. Cows bleed. I bet $100 you wouldn't eat a worm. You talk big now, but you wouldn't if you were sitting at the dinner table with worms on your plate. I bet I would. I'd eat 15 words if someone would bet me $100. You really want to bet? I'll bet you $50 you can eat 15 worms. I really will. Where are you going to get $15? In my savings account. I've got $130.79 in my savings account. I know because last week I put in the $5 my grandmother gave me for my birthday. Your mother wouldn't let you take it out. She would if I lost the bet. She'd have to. I'd tell her I was going to sell my stamp collection otherwise, and I bought that with all my own money that I earned mowing lawns, so I can do whatever I want with it. I'll bet you $50 you can't eat 15 worms. Come on, you're chicken. You know you can't do it. I wouldn't do it, said Tom. If salmon casserole makes me sick, think what 15 worms would do. Joe came scuffing up the walk and flopped down beside Billy. He was a small boy with dark hair and a long nose and big brown eyes. What's going on? Come on, said Alan to Billy. Tom can be your second and Joe will be mine, just like in a duel. You think that's so easy? Here's your chance to make $50. Billy dangled a leaf in front of the cat, but the cat just rubbed against his knee, purring. What kind of worms? Regular worms. Not those big green ones that get on the tomatoes. I won't eat those, and I won't eat any of them, and I won't eat any all at once. It might make me sick. 1 worm a day for 15 days. And he can eat them any way he wants, said Tom. Boiled, stewed, fried, fricasseed. Yeah, but we provide the worms, said Joe, and there have to be witnesses present when he eats them. Either me or Alan or someone we can trust, not just you and Billy. Okay, Alan said to Billy. Billy scratched the cat's ears. $50. That was a lot of money. How bad could a worm taste? He'd eaten fried liver, salmon loaf, mushrooms, tongue, pig's feet. Other kids' parents were nagging them to eat, Had his begun to worry about him eating too much? Now that he was fat, he hadn't worked off all of his winter blubber yet. He slid his hand into his shirt and furtively squeezed the side of his stomach. Worms are just dirt. Dirt wasn't fattening. If he wanted $50, he could buy the mini bike George Cunningham's brother had promised to sell him in September before he went to college. Heck, he could gag anything down for $50, couldn't he? He looked up. I can use ketchup or mustard or anything like that as much as I want? Alan nodded. Okay. Billy stood up. Okay. Chapter 2, Digging. Before we stop the chapter, I want you to pause the video and look up the word manure. You have to know what the word manure means if you're going to understand chapter 2 and kind of how gross it is. No, said Tom, that's not fair. He and Alan and Joe were wandering around behind the barn at Billy's house, arguing over where to dig the first worm. What do you mean it's not fair, said Joe. Nobody said anything about where the worms were supposed to come from. We can get them anywhere we want. Not from a manure pile, said Tom. That's not fair. Even if we didn't make a rule about something, you still have to be fair. What difference does it make where the worm comes from, said Alan. A worm's a worm. There's nothing wrong with manure, said Joe. It comes from cows just like milk. Joe was sly, devious, a schemer. The manure pile had been his idea. You and Billy have got to be fair too, said Alan to Tom. Besides, we'll dig in the old part of the pile where it doesn't smell much anymore. Come on, said Tom, staring off across the field, dragging his shovel. If it was fair, you wouldn't be so anxious about it. Would you eat a worm from a manure pile? Joe and Alan ran to catch up. I wouldn't eat a worm, period, said Joe, so you can't go by that. Yeah, but if your mother told you to go back and pick some daisies for the supper table, would you pick the daisies off of a manure pile? My mother wouldn't ask me. She'd ask my sister. You know what I mean. Alan and Tom and Joe leaned on their shovels under a tree in the apple orchard, watching the worms they had dug squirming on a flat walk. Not him, said Tom, pointing to a night crawler. Why not? Look at him. He'd choke a dog. Jeez, exploded Alan. You expect us to pick one Billy can just gulp down like an ant or a nit? Gulping's not eating, said Joe. The worm's got to be big enough so Billy has to cut it into bites and eat it with a fork off of his plate. It's this one or nothing, said Alan, picking up the night crawler. Tom considered the matter. It would be more than fun watching Billy try to eat the night crawler. He grinned. Boy, it was huge, a regular python. Wait till Billy saw it. We let you choose where to dig, said Alan. After all, thought Tom, Billy couldn't expect to win $50 by just gulping down a few measly little baby worms. All right, come on. He turned and started back towards the barn, dragging his shovel. So I want to leave you with the question for today. First of all, would you take a bet to eat 15 worms for $50? And if you were going to eat the worms, how would you prepare them? Would you want to just pop it in your mouth cold and from the dirt? Or would you want to cook it in a certain way? Let me know what you come up with. Enjoy the rest of the book.